G'day guys, it's Rukshan here. Hope you can hear me. I'm just doing an audio check straight off the bat because this is the first time I'm doing this live show. That I'm going to be doing a few weekly episodes that on X, Facebook, and YouTube. So if you guys can hear me, please in the comments let me know because I have no idea right now if this is working or not because I can't actually test it myself. But I am going live and doing this daily almost news vlog that I used to do every single day. Episodes you might have caught that a few months ago where I would upload a video every single day and just chat with you guys about the news of the day and what I think about those topics. Instead of doing that, I'm actually going to do it live because those ones used to be pre-recorded. And yep, someone's telling me the audio is all good. Perfect. Thanks, guys. And look, with this live show, I'm going to try to actually bring on your comments as well. So, first episode might be a bit all over the place. Let me just actually test that I can bring your comments online. Give me 1 second. Let's have a look. There you go. Comments are coming through. So, this could get interesting actually. So, please try to be don't write rude comments because obviously I'm tracking it by myself. Let me just see, it's all coming through. Perfect. So thanks for that, guys. Thanks for the assistance and actually getting this all going. So like I said, it's going to be a couple of episodes a week, just kind of a chat, a news vlog style format, but live where I'm taking in your comments and actually discussing some of the news stories with you as well. And, on Thursdays, I do the opposition podcast with Avi Yemini, so you can catch me on Thursdays. I definitely won't be doing this show then. On Tuesdays, I probably won't do this as well because Avi Yemini actually does his own show, the Avi Yemini Report. And he might be suspicious and think that I'm actually doing this show myself because he's doing one and I want to have my own show as well. But I've been doing a daily vlog before that. So, Avi, if you're watching, it's not because of you I'm doing this show. I am just doing it because, I want to do live show and discuss news of the day without doing the edited daily vlog format because that takes a lot of work, and actually just doing it live is a lot easier. I'm just going to take the comments off the screen for now, but I'll try to come back to some of the things that you guys are saying. But a lot of people are saying hello. Yeah, people watching from Queensland. Yeah, someone's asking me. I'll actually show this comment because I've come to talk about this actually. So the pub, the Australian venue company. So a bit of drama today. And this drama has actually started way before Australia Day, right? Normally, leading up to Australia Day, a week or so before, you have all the far left-wing activists, trying to torch statues and break statues. And you have all these kind of, these companies coming out with these, they're not going to do this, they're not going to celebrate this. But we've actually had this company, the Australian venue company, kick it off in December. So it's been an interesting day actually hearing this type of commentary all over the news media because obviously everyone's been talking about it and a lot of people have different views about this issue. So I'm going to share some of my views about this. I got a comment from Chris Coveries here with his technical commentary. A few frames dropped here and there, keeping above 20 frames a second just fine. Yeah, thanks, mate. So we do have some technical assistance on hand as well, making sure the stream is going well. But the format of this show is quite simple. So it's Rukshan on X. And really, it's about the fact that, with the change in the media landscape, and you might have seen the ABC, one of the executives or the directors of the ABC having a talk about Joe Rogan and, these guys always talking about Elon Musk as, the mainstream media has become almost irrelevant to the point of where people are interacting online on platforms like X and sharing news there. So a lot of the news that breaks throughout the day comes on social media platforms, especially like X. And I know in Australia we've talked a lot about censorship with the misinformation bill, this under 16 ban, and it's an ongoing issue in our country, access to this type of information, and we fight very hard to ensure that the Labor government, Albanese and the Greens and the Teals and all that kind of lot, even the Liberal Party really, when it comes to the under 16 ban, are not trying to, take this type of media away from us. So Rukshan on X is really about highlighting the news that's on X. And I know some of you guys might already be on X and consuming this news, but at the end of the day, many people might not be. So I want to kind of share what I'm seeing on X. So I'll pick a few topics that I'll bookmark and I'll share that type of news with you guys because it's very interesting stuff on there because the news is uncensored mostly. And also then I'll just kind of browse through X in itself on the whim and just kind of read out what people are sharing at that moment live. Hopefully I can also get some other people involved as well. So some people from X, maybe I can go through their profile with them and see what they've shared for that week and discuss those news stories. So it's a bit of a different type of format. It might be a bit all over the place, but it's meant to be a little bit of fun and, have a bit of commentary and, your comments coming through and so on. So hope this works out. This is the test run. Thank you for those of you who are watching late at night. You can go to sleep if you want to. You don't have to watch this because you can watch it later as well. It will be recorded. But if you want to stay up and join in, sure, I'm going to be streaming for at least the next hour and a half and see how this goes. So first up, let's just jump into this story. And I'll just go to this website actually because this is the company, the Australian venue company. So they've got 200 unique, iconic Australian venues Australia wide. Now, I had no idea about this company existing per se, because a lot of the times we think these pubs are possibly owned by individual business people, and it's their local pub and so on. But we're finding out that this massive company that owns almost 200 establishments across Australia. And then, we've subsequently also found out that they themselves are owned by a Hong Kong-based, so CCP-linked Chinese company. Regardless of all of that, what we've seen so far with this company is that they've put out this crazy thing over the weekend that, I think it's crazy. Some people might not, but that this thing that, they don't want to celebrate Australia Day on the 26th of January, and their venues are not really going to participate in anything to do with Australia Day. So I assume that meant, possibly not putting up decorations or flags to signify Australia Day. Now, there's been a bit of an uproar around this. Not a bit, actually, a lot of an uproar. And that's because people are, rightly pissed off. You have these pubs, like, what for? Why are they even making this a thing, right? Why are they even making this something that people have to debate this early on, especially? But in this manner, at a pub where people just go to have a meal, maybe families get together on Australia Day. Maybe some people want to have that kind of feeling of celebrating Australia Day, and we should. It's our national holiday. It celebrates Australia, and the fact that these people are saying it's almost offensive for people to be celebrating it is quite ludicrous. So I'm sure many of you have seen this story, but for those that have not, I'm just going to jump on X quickly and share the news story from earlier today, where it discusses what this is all about. So just give me a moment while I load that up. All right, here we go.
Hospitality Group. Australia Day parties will be banned from hundreds of pubs next month after a hospitality group revealed it's cracking down on celebrations. Live to Today Queensland reporter Andrea Crothers in Brisbane. Andrea, all major cities will be affected.
Yeah, Jane, if you want to celebrate Australia Day in Brisbane in 2025, you might have to look elsewhere, because here at the Regatta, they won't be acknowledging it. Australian Venue Co owns around 200 of Australia's pubs and bars across the country. Almost half of them are here in Queensland. So venues that will be affected in Brizzy along with the Regatta include the Wickham as well as the Boundary Hotel. If you're in Melbourne, the Espy as well as the Duke of Wellington and Garden State are also on the list. Why are they doing this? Well, there's a statement released from a spokesperson for Australian Venue Co saying that Australia Day is a day that causes sadness for some members of our community. So we've decided not to specifically celebrate a day that causes hurt for some of our patrons and our team. Now, this is likely to be met with open arms from some people, but we know this is always a controversial and divisive topic. Indigenous leader Warren Mundine out in News Corp papers today describing it as a joke. He wants people to actually now boycott these venues. This is just the latest major company to make this move after Woolworths and Aldi decided to ban the sale of merchandise earlier this year. Jane.
Andrea, thank you.
So that gives a pretty good outlay of what the issue is and what people are discussing now. I've been talking about this throughout the day as well. And it was very interesting because, you have these companies that preach all these things about diversity and so on. And I just went over to their website and, you got the usual diversity nonsense on their website. But then you can also see their executive team. So, and these are things that I don't really care about, but the whole team, is a white team, and I was just saying that why don't they start decolonizing their team to begin with, before they start crying about these type of things if they really believe in this nonsense, and it is nonsense, really, it's complete nonsense. And since then, they have backtracked and issued somewhat of a apology, and it's not. I don't really think it's an apology. It's more so trying to let people know that they're not actually closed on Australia Day, so people are still welcome to come to their pubs or whatever and celebrate Australia Day. But they won't be doing anything, and people can kind of do what they like. So yeah, let me just read their apology, and you tell me if you believe that these guys are sincere. Let me just pull it up, guys. Give me 1 second. I'll actually go to my X. There we go. That's better. So this is what the Australian venue company said after the backlash. We can see that our comments on the weekend have caused both concern and confusion. We sincerely regret that our purpose is to reinforce community in our venues, not divide it. It is not for us to tell anyone whether or how to celebrate Australia Day. We acknowledge that and we apologize for our comments. It certainly wasn't our intention to offend anyone. Again, like, they've already done all the damage that they've done, and this is not even walking it back. We employ 9,600 people across the country, and we welcome 15 million patrons each year to our venues. Across our community of team members and patrons, many different views are held, and we acknowledge that. Sure, in Australia, many different views are held. That's fine. People have different views and opinions on all types of things. That doesn't necessarily mean that a company needs to be, forced to take a certain stance, a political stance, because once the company gets involved in politics, then you can criticize them, right? They're entering that chamber of where they can be criticized, and that's what's happened to the Australian company today. Whether you choose to celebrate Australia Day or not, everyone is welcome in our pubs always. We have been and are always open over Australia Day, and we continue to book events for patrons. Now, a lot of this comes after so much backlash, people canceling events. Obviously, lots of people writing reviews on these 200 venues that might have not even had an idea that this was happening. And just a general backlash, because obviously, leaders were talking about it. All types of politicians were making comments on it. And now they've decided to backtrack on all of this. But think about the team that's sitting there wondering, what to do. Like, Australia is coming up in 2 months. How can we do something, make use of ourselves, and create some sort of nonsensical, unrequired controversy for the community? And the team, I'm going to actually show you the team. And what's happened since we posted from the website of the team, actually. So not from, not from, a lot of people are accusing me of trying to dox the team and all this kind of stuff on my Facebook because I shared the team. But it's not really from that. It's actually from their website. And this is the team. So you have all types of interesting individuals. Like I said, there's not much diversity going on there. It's very little diversity. And you have your usual, chief experience officers, and a few other names and titles that probably don't need to exist in a company. But I can just imagine these people trying to find work for themselves and coming up with this nonsense. So that's possibly what's happened. Maybe it was a marketing manager. It could have been one of the chief experiences officers. One of these individuals, maybe even the CEO, the boss himself, up there right at the top, maybe he came up with this initiative. But one of these people would have had to okay this and come up with this and put it out to the public over the weekend. And now they're all walking it back like, oh, we didn't really mean what we meant to say. And, people can do what they like, but, we're still not really celebrating Australia Day. But you can come to our pubs and celebrate if you want. Now, rightly or wrongly, people might have different views, but many people are not going to, go to these establishments, right? People are still saying they're going to boycott these establishments. They're saying that this apology comes too late. They've actually now, I saw someone post, they've actually now removed, I'll just go to that post that I saw. Where is that? Sorry, guys, for scrolling, but this is what it's going to be like. This is from Fancy Nancy. The Australian Venue Co, after deciding to preach to Australians about whether Australia Day should be celebrated, have now removed the page from their website that listed the executives overseeing this genius decision, in case you're wondering what true virtue looks like. So this actual page has now been removed from their website, and I've actually gone there and checked their team section, and yes, they've completely wiped out the part about their team and the executives. There's no mention of them. I don't know for what reason, if they're not really proud of the decisions they've been making, if they're going to come up with some type of excuses that they were being annoyed, who knows? At the end of the day, they're the face of the company. They put themselves out there by making these type of comments, and yeah, perhaps they're paying the price for it in terms of being humiliated by the public for their woke nonsense. That's my personal opinion. I'll try to get to some of your comments now. I know they've been streaming through. I hope you guys have been nice on the comments, because when I watch this back later, I'm going to have to be cautious about the types of comments that go online, because obviously people are always trying to cancel Rukshan. But let's have a look at the comments coming through. Max telling me to get into them. Yeah, look, I don't really care about these corporate individuals. It's just more so like, no one asked you, like, no one really cares, right? Like, no one asked this company to talk about this stuff. Like, you just leave it. People come, they celebrate, they don't celebrate. No one. It was never an issue. I understand that people would have argued about Australia Day leading up to, because every year in this country we argue about Australia Day, right? We can't seem to kind of come to this unified position on this. I thought maybe after the voice to Parliament was defeated, that what I would term as a type of racial, racism laden legislation from the Labor government to separate Australians based on race. After that was defeated by the Australian people, you would have thought maybe most majority of Australians are kind of happy with how Australia is and how it's going, and they're happy with things like Australia Days. Now, I know there's lots of minority groups and certain individuals and activists, and particularly from the left-wing activists, who are very adamant that Australia Day must change. And their whole argument is, it's Invasion Day and so on. And maybe there's some historical reasons for this, and I totally understand around these things. But what happens with these groups is, even if you change the date to another day, they still hate Australia. Like, a lot of these groups that actually don't like Australia Day, they just hate Australia flat out. So anything that actually celebrates Australia in the terms of celebrating what this country is and what it's achieved, what the settlers have achieved in this country, what the Aboriginal people have achieved, what the migrant populations that have come recently to this country have all contributed together as a nation. The celebration of that in terms of being linked to the history of Australia as a good thing, the fact that this country was settled by the British and by Europeans, and that kind of led to the flourishing of the Australia we see today. A lot of these people are completely opposed to this type of concept, so they don't care what day will be. They'll just hate the fact that Australia is being celebrated. They'll want to call it something else, like Nam Day or whatever. I'm just saying, like, that's the kind of thinking behind some of these kind of crazed left-wing activists. So I'm not really for this whole changing the date thing. Leave the date how it is. If there's a consensus amongst the community and it's decided in some manner and everyone's happy with it, yeah, change date. But as far as I go, leave the date how it is. All right, let's get to some of these comments. I'll just have a look again. Jackson's got a bit of a point. Maybe that's accurate. Jackson says, my take on the apology: the overseas parent company was caught unaware their Australian office issued the unpatriotic directive and promptly ordered the all-work management team to withdraw the directive and apologize. Maybe at the end of the day, like, why would you want to cut into your business? Your business involves people coming in and drinking and eating food. Why would you want to politicize such a simple business like that? And in terms of people going to the pub and drinking, that's something that all Australians do, regardless of politics, and they go there for many different reasons. So why would you want to make it this political thing, right? So yeah, these guys are a bit nuts. Let's move on. Actually, I'll actually go on to my X now and browse through what people are posting, and let's have a look at what Barnaby Joyce had to say about this entire issue. Let's have a listen.
So I would say that, if you like Australia Day, go to their venue, wear your Australian T-shirt, wear your Australian flags, because they don't have the right as merely administrators to start dictating to not only all their staff, but everybody in their community who makes them the money that pays their wages by by going to their pub, as to that they've got a chip on their shoulder about Australia Day. I mean, if you really think something that hurts people, alcohol and gaming, how about those two? So if you really want to be virtuous, why don't you just shut your pub down?
So, Barnaby, so we don't have to...
Yeah, I mean, often Barnaby doesn't make sense, but this time he makes a very good point, and that is that these venues do promote gambling and alcoholism, really, for people that overdrink. I know not everyone does that; most people do it responsibly. But at the end of the day, it promotes certain vices within our community. And if you want to be wholesome and protect the public and keep people safe and not offend people, these guys are literally in the business of selling people alcohol and promoting gambling. That's what they do. So this kind of virtuous nonsense that they're going on about trying to protect staff members and individuals that might be offended in society, they don't always preach. They don't always do what they preach when it comes to their virtue. And they've been called out in this instance. So that's a good point there from Barnaby Joyce. We saw Francie's one before. What else is there? Let's see what Jacinta Price had to say. This is from Sky News. So Jacinta Price, Shadow Indigenous Minister Jacinta Price says she is sick to death of the separatism in Australia, as one of the largest pub groups has apologised over their Australia Day ban. And yeah, I think a lot of people are just sick to death of this kind of division that we create all of a sudden, that we have to, be separated between people that celebrate Australia Day and don't celebrate Australia Day. There's always something to divide us. It's a bit wild. This is the CEO, Paul Waterson. I wonder what he's doing today. I'm sure they had all types of crisis meetings on Zoom or whatever they did. Perhaps they did a welcome to country first before opening the meeting. Like, this is the type of organization that I'm now thinking that these people are a part of. But yeah, ridiculous guy. Hopefully he's sacked, actually. Sacked by the CCP owners that run the Australian venue. So that would be pretty funny. There's a few other posts there, but I think I'll move on from this story. Actually, let's see what the project says. This is Steve Price. Let's have a listen in.
I wake up to the fact that we don't want them telling us what to do on Australia Day. Last year it was Woolworths, we won't sell a flag. Brad Banducci, the CEO, ended up losing his job. Just shut up and let people throw a lamb chop on the barbecue, have a beer and get on with it.
You're like an alarm clock.
Yeah, exactly.
This time every year.
Well, I mean, it's really annoying. They put this out overnight, and then when they hear the feedback from the public, which says, shut up, they then go, oh, we didn't mean to offend anyone. Well, you did offend people.
I heard it was actually because they forgot to order enough meat pies, so they had to shut the whole thing down.
When
I
they
don't
say
know what you're
ban
talking
it,
about.
does that mean they were going to ban flags, merch, T-shirts? It doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you go out of your way to say we're not going to celebrate it?
Especially when you're in the entertainment
just
business.
To clarify, did they say they were banning it, or they just weren't having an Australia Day
They told their
celebration?
staff there was no celebration in any of their 200 pubs to do with January 26th.
But they are taking bookings for people that want to celebrate Australia Day.
Well, they are.
We've been through some of these points, but I think this comment here from John, it's a really interesting comment, because this is the Australian what are they called? Australian venue company. Very fancy. So, a lot of the pubs have these colonial names. So one of their pubs in Adelaide is called the Colonialist. There's a few pubs with the Duke or the Prince. If you really look into it and go deep into this, they're actually using the English language, which in itself might be offensive if you consider the colonial history of Australia. So, there's so many layers of ridiculousness, the type of the direction that this actual company has gone in. So I think I'm going to move on beyond this company now. Just go to X and see what else people are talking about on X. Let's have a jump in. So Rowan Dean's actually commented on this as well. So he's a Sky News presenter. In order to celebrate Australian values and resurrect the spirit of Slim Dusty, I urge all beer-loving Australians to ensure that any pubs owned by Australian Venue Co. are from now on known only as a pub with no customers. So I'm not one that actively promotes boycott culture. I think at the end of the day, people will make decisions about where they, spend their money. I don't want to actively promote boycotts and canceling businesses and things like this, because sometimes you're at the actual receiving end of that. I had a lot of that nonsense happening to me during COVID, for instance, people trying to cancel my business and so on. So, but people, if you get political, there are consequences to that. So even though during that time people were trying to cancel my business and giving me negative reviews and stuff for the work that I was doing during COVID, I understood that that came with the territory because I was involved in a political discussion. So it is how it is at the end of the day when you get involved in it, and I don't blame people for saying that they're not gonna, they're gonna choose not to use their cash or their money at these venues anymore. That makes complete sense. So I'm just going to skip through some stuff that obviously when I'm going through X, there's going to be some weird stuff that possibly we shouldn't be talking about as well, because there's all types of nonsense that ends up on here. Let's have a look. So this is an interesting one from today. So this is a comment or a tweet that Joe Biden made on June the 1st, and he wrote, "No one is above the law." Now, when he wrote "no one is above the law," of course, that was in reference to the whole drama that we had before the election, before the US election, where there was so much lawfare against President Donald J. Trump, right? They had put him through so many cases in different districts, different courts, all trying to slow him down, trying to ensure that he hasn't got time to prepare for the election, and just make him look bad. And hopefully, what they really wanted, their dream wish was to put Donald Trump in jail in some manner or something like that, disqualify him from running from the election. So you had a lot of this commentary during that time from Democrats and so on, saying that no one is above the law. Well, of course, today we find out that from this community note, I'll just read it straight up how it is. Joe Biden granted a full unconditional pardon to his son Hunter on the 1st of December 2024. Hunter was convicted of multiple felonies but will now go unpunished. That's right. So Joe Biden has pardoned his son Hunter Biden of almost all type of criminal activity he may have been involved in going back a few years. Not just his tax evasion and not just filling out a form wrong for this gun license thing, that issue that he had, but anything that he's done in the past few years. And there's lots of accusations about the involvement of Hunter Biden in his father's dealings, 10% for the big guy and all sorts of stuff that, people can read up on if they want to, especially stuff to do with Ukraine and money laundering and to do with China and money laundering. And you guys have seen most likely the images of Hunter Biden, with cocaine and all types of drugs and prostitutes. And he's just a crazy kid in terms of a presidential son when you compare it to some others in the past. Like, he's probably been the worst in terms of the way that he's acted out and done things, right? But of course, he's been pardoned now. So Joe Biden has fully pardoned him after saying multiple times, right? The Democratic campaign, Joe Biden, all these politicians in the US, the media people that support Biden multiple times, they've all said Joe Biden would not pardon his son because he's a man of principle and that Democrats don't do things like this and no one's above the law and he will face, justice and all this kind of stuff. But of course, now Hunter Biden is fully pardoned and exonerated in that way because none of those crimes can really be looked into anymore. And at the end of the day, I mean, Joe Biden, whether he knows what he's doing or not is questionable, but he has nothing to lose. Like, they've already lost the US election. Trump's in there for 4 years. The next 8 years after that could be Republican as well. Why not just pardon his son Hunter? Who knows who else he'll pardon actually before he goes out? Because a lot of these pardons are really designed around, now that Trump is in power with his Justice Department, he can't go after these people anymore, especially if they're pardoned for these things. It's almost not worth going after them. So, they're just covering all the tracks. Peter Dutton's posted today, 3 hours ago. Let's see what he says. Since Anthony Albanese was elected, household electricity hardship has skyrocketed by 79%. This is despite the Prime Minister promising to cut electricity bills by $275, yet bills are now up to $1,000 higher than what he promised. And, many Australians would probably look at this and look at the issues around cost of living and say, yes, all these bills that keep coming, at the end of the day, when we actually see the costs going up, it does feel like nothing's really been done to address these issues, and the prices have kept going up. And that is, of course, a part of the legacy of Anthony Albanese, a long list of failures of the Albanese Labor government in terms of, what have they really achieved for the Australian people to make our lives better, to make, the cost of living for many people that are struggling better, right? He's been wasting his time on things like the Voice to Parliament, the misinformation bill. So much time was wasted on that. And of course, the under 16 social media ban bill, which he actually got through thanks to the help of Peter Dutton. So many people are not happy with the Liberals about that as well. But I won't go into a long tirade about that. We talked about that last week on the Opposition podcast and might actually talk about it again in the coming episode this week. So check out that. I'll just keep going. This is around if you saw the ABC, what's his name? Is he the director of something at the ABC, right? He's the main guy, really. He's on the board. And Kim Williams. And he said more comments, I think, about Joe Rogan. So this is Ross Cameron sharing this. Williams tried to diminish Joe Rogan a second time, saying he obviously been a very influential character in America. Clearly, no one has told Williams that in 2022, the most listened to podcast in Australia was the Joe Rogan Experience. Again, we talked about this on the Opposition podcast. You can watch that episode from last week. Me and Avi went across this as well, because this Kim Williams, guys, is actually a distant relation to Avi Yemeni. So we call him, Kim Williams is his Avi's uncle. Anyway, this ABC guy is totally out of touch. A lot of these media people in positions of power have no idea how much the media landscape has changed. You can see from that comment there, from that quote from the Sydney Morning Herald, Joe Rogan, these American podcasters do have massive audiences here in Australia as well, right? All around the world, in the UK, the Western Hemisphere, let's say, right? Even beyond that, they have a lot of influence. A lot of young people all around the world, especially young men, listen to Joe Rogan and these type of figures, and they have a massive audience. So to think that the ABC doesn't really understand how this landscape has shifted, that they don't understand the influence of these individuals, are not really to do with them preying on people. It's more so to do with the fact that a lot of people actually have given up on institutions like the ABC, right? Why would you watch what are you going to watch on the ABC? Half the time it's complete nonsense. There's nothing that really challenges people to, understand the different perspectives that are happening in this country. When I'm talking in terms of political stuff, yes, maybe for the kids and stuff, the cartoons and stuff might be okay, but even that's probably like woke, right? I'm sure there's woke cartoons on ABC trying to infiltrate the minds of children. So these organizations like the ABC have not really kept up. And you're seeing them now, when they're actually faced with this reality, lash out. They want more government control. They want more control over what they call misinformation. They want to regulate, right? Podcasters. They want to regulate things like what I'm doing. They want to regulate this because this is apparently one of the most dangerous things to happen now, right? That people like, like myself, for instance, can set up a camera, talk about the news, chat with people. We can all share ideas. You're seeing everyone's comments, and we're feeding off each other and getting different ways. Maybe we can solve problems in our country or help each other. So that is actually very dangerous, according to people in the ABC and other mainstream institutions, and of course the Labor government and the Greens and the Teals in Australia, who have really tried their best to clamp down on people's access to information and actually controlling, through censorship, what can happen. Obviously, during COVID, we had the rise of fact checkers. You don't really see them anymore. I don't know if you've noticed, like a lot of these fact checkers have disappeared, right? They were fact checking like crazy for a while. Now they've just kind of disappeared. And that was a tool that they used. And, that was slowly defeated by people like Elon Musk and others who have challenged these institutions and either taken them to court or sued them or try to, understand the algorithms that they use and expose them through the Twitter files. So a lot of these institutions have been exposed. Now governments are trying to step into that role and clamp down on this. So I think, it doesn't seem like a massive thing, this Kim Williams comment, but it actually shows you where we are with the media when it comes to this issue. Now, JD Vance news, I don't know how accurate this is. This is not JD Vance himself, but they're saying Robert F. Kennedy Jr. wants Dr. Fauci to be charged in court for his cover-up of COVID-19 origins. Should he be charged? What do you think, Dr. Fauci? Should he be charged? Now, if you look at what Donald Trump is doing at the moment in terms of his administration and the people that he's bringing in, Dr. Fauci, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, all of these guys are now going to get the opportunity with the power, the awesome power actually of the executive branch of government, really, with Donald Trump at the lead in the US, to actually look in to what happened during that time. So I will not be surprised that if we find out now over the next 2-3 years, when these kind of reports get reopened back up, when these people are re-questioned, we'll find out some very interesting things about what happened during that time, the things that were hidden from us, the way that they went about these things, the contracts with some of these, vaccine manufacturers and so on. Now, Australia is very reluctant. Albanese, the Labor government, they're very reluctant to have a royal commission into this and actually have people come forward and be questioned. And the attempts that they've made at kind of understanding what happened during that time, it's all trying to gloss over it. But maybe if there is a massive development in the US in the next, 1 year, I'd say in the first year, we might see something related to COVID in terms of revelations. If there is a big revelation, it might put pressure then on Australia to actually, be involved in a more open process to understanding what really happened during that time. Because, obviously I was talking about it during that time and trying to highlight some of the issues that we faced because of COVID. When it comes to lockdowns and the mandates, now I'm not a doctor or a scientist to actually understand the implications of what they did medically during what what's that guy's name? Doctor. What I can't remember his name. Doctor. No, I don't remember the doctor's names in Australia, but they were talking about this being the biggest clinical trial, right? And it was almost like an experiment, but they had to kind of do it because there was no other choice. So all the things that they did during that time, and we're seeing now, I'm being very careful with my choice of words because of the platforms that we're on. We're seeing now the after effects of that. And when I, bump into people that were not very, happy with what the work that I was doing during that time, they have a different tune now, and they've kind of seen and understood that maybe what they went through during that time, especially the fear that was forced into them to actually make the decisions that they made. A lot of people regret the things that they did, said, or were put through. And I think a lot of those people, if the government actually fully ever disclosed what they did, and showed, exactly, that they didn't really know what they were doing, and a lot of it was just guesswork, people would be so angry. People would be so pissed off. So that's why they're trying to hold it back as much as possible. But I think now, because of what's happened in America with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Dr. Jay Bhattacharya and a few other people coming in, they will actually open this wide open. So let's hope that there's pressure put on the Australians to actually do something about this as well. I'll just go through a few more, guys, and then we'll stop there. Let's have a look. Let's make Australia Day great again. That's right. And that's got Lydia Thorpe at the front there doing her usual nonsense. So actually, speaking of Lydia Thorpe, I believe she actually she might have apologized to Pauline Hanson. I did see something just before. Yeah, so Lydia Thorpe has issued an apology to Pauline Hanson for saying that she was convicted of racism, because she was not convicted of racism. It's that sham civil proceeding brought on by Senator Faruqi, saying that because Pauline Hanson told her to go back to Pakistan, that somehow it's racist to say those things, right? So complete nonsense. And I believe Senator Hanson, who was actually on the opposition podcast two weeks ago, she is completely challenging that as well, right? So she's appealing that. I believe it's what's called 18C. Those things need to be challenged, but Lydia Thorpe was completely out of line last couple of days last week in the Senate, saying all types of nonsense and screaming all types of things like she does. Really just not doing herself any favors in terms of what people think of her. Of course, she does not care, but she's now had to issue a apology to Senator Hanson. So it's a very simple apology, but at least she's issued it. And I believe the media companies have also issued a apology to Senator Pauline Hanson. So that's interesting news there. Let's have a look. One more thing. All right, let's start with this. Elon Musk shared this. This is also to do with Joe Biden. And I'm sorry I'm jumping back and forth between stories, but this is exactly what's coming up on my timeline. And this is a perfect example of that what the Democrats used to say about Joe Biden to what Joe Biden did now. People who insist Biden will pardon Hunter after specifically ruling it out are telling on themselves. They can't imagine someone acting on principle and keeping his word. So this was in June this year. And of course, we have today breaking: President Joe Biden pardons his son Hunter on gun and tax charges, despite previous promises that he would not do so. So I'd recommend following this account, actually. If you're on X, Defiant L's, what they do is really they just take two comments that people have made or organizations that have made at different points of time and just show the hypocrisy, or just how they took a L or they just wrecked themselves. So here we have Black Lives Matter, and in 2021 they said capitalism doesn't love black people, and then you have New York Post in 2022, Black Lives Matter used donations to buy $6 million Southern California home. That's just one example. Let's just find one more. Here we go. This is Harry Sison. He's a left-wing lunatic for Joe Biden. He wrote in 2022, "Hey Donald, nobody is above the law in the United States." And today he wrote, "President Biden has officially pardoned his son Hunter Biden. His full statement is below. I fully agree with this decision." So your usual nonsense from these people. Anyway, guys, I'm just going to come to the comments now. Someone has said, here we go. So I do like the comments making a bit of fun of me as well. So Rookie is a traitor. I don't care. I don't know what I'm a traitor to. Complete nonsense. I should probably ban some of these people, but they actually add to my engagement. So the more they comment and hate watch what I'm doing is actually better for my algorithm. So please continue to write your stupid comments. Let's have a look at these things. Someone wrote, well, if my dad was a crooked president, then of course I would commit crimes and stuff. Yeah, I mean, there's a bit of a why not, right? If your dad themselves is crooked, why wouldn't you? And if you consider the way that the Democrats are actually talking about this right now, they're saying like, oh, Hunter Biden should have never been charged and he's been put through so much. Like, why put him through these things? He doesn't deserve to be in that situation. But if you actually look at what they put the Trump family through, and I've been following this closely for many years now, since the Russia hoax, Don Jr., the amount of times that they've been subpoenaed, had to come into hearings, their homes being raided. I mean, they went through Melania's underwear when they raided Mar-a-Lago. These people are crazy. They've like fully gone after the Trump family. And now they're saying that the law's been too tough and the justice system's been too tough on Hunter Biden. And that's why they're giving him this pardon. It's complete, utter nonsense. Jeanette wrote, what did she write? So lovely to hear from you. Yes, thanks, Jeanette. That's a nice comment from you. It's great to actually be doing this live again. So, and I have to say that I did take a bit of a break for a while from doing this type of thing. There's many different reasons for that, but it's good to be back doing this, and a lot of that is actually because I've kept in this space thanks to doing the opposition podcast with Avi Yemeni. So that's always been good to actually be still present and doing political work. But I'm also always active on X, actually engaging with a lot of these discussions. But it's hard to then put the time and effort into when you're doing other work to bring that into this type of format. So that's why I'm doing it live. So if you're joining in, a bit later on wondering what's going on, why is Rukshan on live talking about random things with comments going on the screen, it's because I'm just trying to bring up a live format show a couple of times a week where I'm discussing these things and just making it fun and interesting, because I do completely believe that to defeat a lot of the issues that we have in this country, it'll take a lot of these type of podcasts and more kind of conservative voices, perhaps more voices of reason. We don't really get a fair shake when it comes to platforms like the ABC or other mainstream platforms. Like they would never, in terms of the way that I express my views, especially my very firm Australia first views, very, very hard for me to get a role at the ABC, for instance, right? But if I was out there bashing Australia, and calling, saying all sorts of stuff about colonialism and white people, things that I don't believe in. But if I was willing to do that, I could perhaps easily get a role at the ABC as a diversity hire, right? Because they're looking for people like me to spread this nonsense and lies about this country and confuse people in this country, right? But that's not what I want to do. So it's a bit harder what I'm attempting to do. It's a bit harder, of course, but I think it's worth it. And so it's great to be here doing that. All right, I'm not on X, but enjoying the show format. Yeah, look, I mean, if you're on Facebook, it's not actually a big deal. I'm not sure you're watching on YouTube. And I know people have different comments and theories about Elon Musk, and some people don't like what he's doing and so on. But at the end of the day, the thing about X is that it does have a lot more content that you would never see on Facebook or YouTube, especially YouTube. Facebook is a bit weird. Like sometimes things get through. But on X, you see these like different debates and discussions, and it's actually great. Now, these left-wing people, since Donald Trump has won, they don't want to be on X anymore. They found this new thing called Blue Sky, and they've all kind of shifted over to Blue Sky because apparently, like, that's like their little echo chamber now. And I've never done that, even when X was, Twitter, formerly Twitter, and it was really hard for like conservatives or people who wanted to share like alternative viewpoints to some of the woke nonsense that was happening. It was very hard. Like we're getting shadow banned, constantly deleted, but you still stay there because you want to be a part of the debate. You want to, you want to argue your point whichever way you can. You don't want to give up and run away. But a lot of these lefties, they're like, running away to Blue Sky, and they're going into an echo chamber because they don't want to hear anyone else's opinions. And I heard this really smart, great way someone that phrased it. They're not leaving because they're being stopped on X from saying what they want to say. Because there's very little censorship on X. These lefties and whoever, in America they call them liberals. They can say whatever they want on X and share whatever they want and debate people. They're not leaving because they're being censored, right? They're leaving because people like myself and others, who are challenging a lot of these kind of woke ideas we're seeing in the world. It's because we now have a voice where we're not getting censored anymore, and they don't want to hear from us. They don't want to see it, so they're very angry about that. So these people just want echo chambers, and I'm not really about that. So that's really why I don't delete a lot of the negative comments you might see, people writing about me and all this kind of stuff. I don't really care. It's just words. A lot of it's nonsense. Who's the next guest on the opposition podcast? Yeah, we'll see. So me and Avi kind of planned that ad hoc, like just last minute sometimes. Sometimes there's more planned out, depending on the guest. But we do have to start thinking about that and have a guest on the opposition podcast. And that's what's great about the opposition podcast, because it's really, of course, there's me and Avi talking about stuff, but having that alternative view or a complementary view from a guest or someone that's got some kind of life experience in that issue or some different viewpoint, it really adds to that conversation. So if you're not watching already, the opposition podcast on Thursdays at 7 o'clock. Someone's asking me, so Rukshan, friend, if I may say, what side of politics you are on, centrist, left, right, or yeah, look, maybe I'm like a centrist. I don't know. Like I do have this kind of because I'm very heavily into US politics, so sometimes I might refer to myself as a conservative. Maybe I'm not, but I'd say I'd more center right, maybe something like this. Definitely, I oppose a lot of the lunatic left wing nonsense that you see. Of course, I do see historical significance in terms of what liberals or left have achieved throughout history and maybe into the future as well. There are some good points and good thinking around some of their ideology, but obviously it's gone to such a deep end, to such an extent where it doesn't really represent anything that I think the average person is considering or thinking about anymore. So that's why I oppose a lot of those ideas, because I think they've just gone too far. So maybe a centrist, I don't know. I'm happy to be called a conservative. I do like to, conserve, just taking to the most simplest of forms, to conserve tradition. I very much value Western tradition, living in the West, living in a country like Australia. Like, I don't want to see those things disappear, because they're actually the things which are make this country great, right? I talk about this a lot whenever I get a chance, but the reason that there's migrants that come to Australia is not because, for any other reason, but they come because of the tradition of the West, which has made these places somewhere that you can actually raise a family, you can have aspirations. To put it in American terms, you could have the pursuit of happiness. Now, we also have that in Australia to some degree, even though it's not, codified in a bill or whatever. Those things are there for us in countries like Australia. So I firmly believe in, I guess, keeping those things still alive, because that's what draws people like, my family that came here to countries like Australia because they lost a lot of that, right? And thanks to them, I have that opportunity here now. So I'm not going to waste it. And I'm not going to destroy it and say that other people in the future don't deserve to have those same opportunities because I got that woke mind virus. So yeah, my politics comes somewhere from that. Thanks, Tara. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you so much. Yeah, someone's saying, here we go, you're far right, deal with it, laughing my ass off. So I don't know if this is a comment in jest or this is they firmly believe this, but yeah, some people say I'm far right and they'll accuse me of all types of they'll say I'm like a white supremacist almost, and it's ridiculous statements, right? They'll say that I'm like a Nazi almost sometimes, and it's crazy. And that's because these left-wing lunatics, maybe this person is one of them, they think the most basic things are things that make you a Nazi. That's why they go around yelling, calling everyone a Nazi. This is like the world that they live in. They said that Donald Trump, and going back to the Trump campaign, you saw him, he spoke at Madison Square Gardens during the campaign, and they said, oh, Hitler, or there was another rally there, not Hitler, but there was another rally there in the 30s, a Nazi rally. So therefore, because Donald Trump spoke there as well, therefore it's a Nazi rally. Like, this is the type of arguments. Like, it's so simplified, it's so stupid. This is the type of people that we're dealing with. So yeah, I mean, this person might be calling me right wing, but I completely ignore that. Of course, when they attack you in the press, they'll say right wing and they'll say extremist and all these kind of words. I just ignore all that crap because it's just stupid, right? You saw what they're doing. The Liberal Party themselves are trying to do to Maura Deeming. You saw during that time what they did to her, and all because what? Because she went to a rally with other women in Australia to discuss things to do with women's rights and the fear that they feel with the encroachment by men who are pretending to be women in their view. I mean, these are legitimate forms of debate and discussion that we should be able to have in Australia without being called a Nazi. But of course, people will say these things. So yeah. Yeah, so biology is fascism, don't you know? Yeah, so it's a topic I don't want to go into today, but there is a lot there. Yeah, and someone else wrote here, so many presidents have spoken there too. Yeah, so many people have been at Madison Square Gardens, so many Democratic presidents, I think Bill Clinton. Forgetting politics, they have concerts there, they have all types of people there. Just because there was, 80 years ago, whatever, there was Nazis in one particular point, and you end up on that point as well, talking about something. You can't equate the two directly like these people are doing. So ridiculous. Dean wrote, such a long time since I saw you live chat, bringing back great memories. Keep up your great work. Yeah, so obviously, in terms of being live all the time, during COVID and during lockdowns, there was always a protest or something. I would go and then do that live. I did attempt a few times to do these kind of pro-Palestinian protests live, and that didn't really work out for me because of my relationship with Avi Yemeni. They've really taken a hateful view towards me, and that ended up with me being assaulted by an individual. Thankfully, he's been found guilty and so on, but I've really cut down on covering that issue, and I'll only ever cover that issue really if I'm going to somewhere where both sides are protesting, like I did in Caulfield the other day, and I'll cover it in the middle and just show what's happening. I find I'm safest at those type of events. If I do go cover a Jewish event, for instance, I do feel a bit safer. I'm just being completely honest in terms of the individuals that are there. And at the pro-Palestinian events, it's actually not the, it's not the Arabic or the Muslim people who are a threat to me. It's these far left-wing lunatics, these uni students mostly, that are wearing the cafes. They have no idea about what they're talking about. They're communists or the socialist Marxists. I don't know what they are. But these radicals are super dangerous to our country, these Antifa types. And, they're literally acting like domestic terrorists in terms of the way that they're shutting down businesses. They're being economic terrorists in the way that they shut down ports, and they're literally no consequences for them. So when they're in a mob and in a group, they're very emboldened to attack people and do things. So that's really why I stay away from those type of protests. All right, guys, I'm just reading some more of the comments. I'll see if I can respond to a couple of others. Just bear with me. Hopefully I can, we're trying to figure out between me and Avi as well, a format to bring people in so they can ring in or join in on the show as well via phone or video, or maybe a spaces or something like this. So that would be quite interesting just to keep the conversation going. For today, I think I've my test of this concept of streaming on X and having your comments going and stuff. I'm gonna watch it back after and see how I did and see how I can tweak things. But I think it's going pretty good. So I'm kind of happy that I pressed go live. Yeah, I don't know. Like in terms of someone saying the protesters are paid and stuff, and maybe they are. I mean, I see them like every week, and I see them at every single issue that's kind of down the ideological alley. So these were the same groups. Like a lot of these, I remember there was a time when I went to a protest during COVID, and it was the organized by the Greens. I think Samantha Rutnam, the leader of the Greens, and a few others, and it was a pro-vaccine protest. So it was these kind of, these left-wing uni students, Antifa types, all masked up, protesting in favor of Pfizer and, in favor of science and all this kind of stuff, which is whatever. And they were just doing it in the same radical way. And then they attacked me that day as well. And that's when I kind of first realized that these people are just all over the place, Are those comments on the screen and from X Spaces? No, they're from, sorry, the program that I'm using, I'm actually able to get the comments fed live from Facebook, YouTube, and X all together. So they're just from my X live stream. They're not from the Spaces. So, but I think it's cool. Like I like the fact that these comments are coming on. I'm just not moderating them. So I apologize for any dodgy comments that are going up because I can't keep up with the pace of the comments. You kept a lot of people sane during the virus times, Rukshan. Yeah, look, I mean, I do bump into people still out in public when I do work. And just in random spots, people will come up to me and be like, hey, Rukshan, is it you? And blah, blah, blah. And, thank you for streaming during that time. And I think really, I didn't do anything special beyond just turning the camera on and streaming, right? And that was really because, we had this situation where the mainstream media was not doing their job. The government was clearly lying to the people. Very, we know that more today, but many of us felt that during that time. The conversations that we were having amongst each other and our families and our friends wasn't really being reflected in the reporting that was coming out. So, what I really did during that time, and many others around the world, and many others in Australia as well, that were live streaming and kind of putting themselves out there, was just to show that reality. And it wasn't the hardest work in the world to do. It was very simple to do, which is actually probably an indictment on just how bad our media was during that time. Like it was so simple to do what I did, and that they just refused to just give people that simplicity of, certainty about the fact that there were other people in the community that felt just like them, that were unsure just like them, that were worried about what the government was doing, that were not happy about things like the lockdowns and the mandate and the vaccines, right? So once you have that message put out there into the community, then typically everyone else in the community knows that there's more people that are like them, that have the same feelings as them. The government doesn't have this kind of mandate that they created for themselves where they could kind of do anything they wanted. This kind of consent that somehow everyone supported what the government was doing with their sham of a national cabinet thing that they put through, and the emergency laws that they passed. It's all ridiculous what they did during that time. But the reason that they shut people out, the reason that they shut the media out, and the reason they hated people like me for doing the very basic thing of just turning on a phone camera and live streaming, was the fact that it just put light into the darkness that they themselves had created to keep people in fear, and they hated that so much. So, and there were a lot of people that I know personally that didn't like me for what I was doing, that broke their friendships off with me. There were a lot of people obviously in media and that made comments about people like myself and others. There's other people that went to jail or prison for their beliefs during that time, and so much things happened during that time. And it's a time definitely that I will never forget, even though it feels like a lifetime ago almost. I'll never forget that time, because it really grounded me in the importance of what it means to be someone that values freedom in this country and values our values and traditions, and really defending them in other instances as well. So, I think it's been a blessing for me that I've kind of continued on doing that since in my own way. The people became the true media. Is Rukshan going to join Rebel News? So I do a lot of work with RV Yemeni from Rebel News, and lots of conspiracies about my involvement with the Rebel News and so on. But I'm not involved in the manner that people believe I am. RV and myself, we have a good relationship. When we do this podcast together, I'm totally independent, but we work together. And Rebel News, they kind of I'm glad to have them in my corner as someone that I know in terms of RV, because they do have the resources to help individuals like myself when it comes to legal issues, when it comes to protecting against police harassment and so on. Like, that's really empowered many, I think, journalists in the independent media in this country and around the world. The lawsuits that they bring out against the police and stuff really evens out the playing field to be able to do that, because it would be impossible otherwise for people like myself to take on the police. So having the resources of Rebel News, thanks to my friendship with Avi behind me, is good. But no, I'm not an official member of Rebel News. I like to kind of just do different things. Rukshan Fernando, do it brave. How do you deal with losing mates and public backlash from it? Yeah, so I did lose a lot of friends. I lost a lot of business. I've lost, even recently, I think I've lost business as well, because people want me to take a certain stance on this whole Palestinian and Israel type thing. And at the end of the day, it is just what it is. I think I'm not an individual that would change the things that I do and so on just to benefit myself financially in that way. Like, I don't really care that I lost that business during COVID time, because I shared things that I completely myself as a business owner as well believe to be true. Like, I was just being true to myself. So if people were hating on me for that, then it is what it is. I was just doing what I had to do as an individual as well. So I completely believed in what I was doing as being the right thing to do, even though it comes with consequences. And often doing the right thing involves some type of consequence. And if you can't do those consequences, it's not really a reflection on individuals. Like, not everyone can put themselves out there, and I totally understand that. But I just, for whatever reason, I just felt like I had to do that, and I had to deal with the consequences from that. And other opportunities have arisen. So you lose friends, but you also make friends. And that's something that I've really learned during that time, during COVID, was that I lost all these people that don't like me anymore, but I gained a whole bunch of other people that I would have never met perhaps, and so many other experiences and forms of education and knowledge, and so many things I did after that point in my life that I would have probably never done if I hadn't put myself out there. So there's good and bad, and it's just how you approach it. So I wouldn't say to look at challenging yourself in these situations as a negative always. There's always going to be people that don't like what you do, and there's going to be people that support you. So yeah, it is what it is. Do you still do wedding videos? Yes, we still do wedding photography and wedding videos. Not as much as I used to, but we definitely still do. Yeah, so I don't know this someone who wrote this, Zelda. Now the government has announced all the fines are illegal and are reimbursing the fines. So I don't know if that's relevant to Victoria, but I know in New South Wales, so all those COVID era fines that they issued were pretty much all illegal, and so they're being cancelled. And hopefully, if this person is saying what is accurate, they're being repaid as well, which is a great thing. So, like I said, during the time, a lot of the stuff that they did was completely illegal, but they got away with it. Yeah, Rukshan, stay unbiased with research. Yeah, sure. I mean, definitely. There's points. Today, it's a bit different to when I'm just pointing the camera at something that's happening and showing that. Like, obviously, when you're a political commentator and you have a certain political stance or a view, I'm very open about that. So on most things, I'm being completely honest. Like there will be a bias that comes through, and a reasonable person listening to me, even today, listening to me, would probably pick up on the fact that I don't agree with a lot of the Labor Party's policies. But there's reasons for that. So it's okay to have a bias. I think a lot of us have different biases, but if you need to be able to be open and honest about it, or if even if not that, articulate your position and give people the reason as to why you have that view. It's very different to what you see a lot of the times where people try to secretly tell you that this is you got to pass this law because if you don't, you're a racist. Like that's complete. That's not the way to approach things. So I'm much more open about my views, and I'm happy to be challenged even if I'm wrong. Yeah, Daniel writes, one door closes, another one opens. So exactly. So it's always good to do what you want to do, and there's always going to be something that comes from that, whether good or bad. I think you'll find that more often than not, if you're true to yourself, there'll be some good that comes out of it. But look, guys, it's I've streamed for about an hour and 10 minutes now, and thank you for joining me for this live stream. I've got about 1,600 people watching from different platforms, so when it's all joined together. So it's been a very interesting experiment. I will most likely again do this on Wednesday and polish this show up. So you'll find me around the same time on Wednesday night this week, and we'll do another episode of this Rukshan on X. Hopefully I can get someone from X to go through their X with me. That'll be a lot of fun. On Tuesday, so you can check out Avi Yemeni's X. He's got a show tomorrow night, the Avi Yemeni Report. So check that out. That thing goes around 7 o'clock. Wednesday, I'll be on around 9:30. And then Thursday, we have the Opposition podcast at 7 p.m. With a guest. So that'll be awesome. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm not sure exactly what's happening yet, but maybe one of those days I'll come on as well. Thanks, guys. Thanks for all your comments. Sorry if I didn't read all the comments. There's one. Rukshan has a. Here we go. Here, I'll put this one. Rukshan has a right-wing bias and would get a job on Sky News. There you go. People. I mean, I'm happy for the criticism to come through. I mean, I take the feedback. Definitely, I understand that some of my criticisms lean more towards that way. So maybe it's a fair comment. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching and joining in on the stream. If you missed this, obviously. You can watch it all back. It's all going to be there live. I apologize for any technical difficulties. I hope everything sounded good and you guys were able to enjoy the show. I will see you all next time.